yeah, we can have fun, we can go out, we can this, we can that, but nobody knows the bad stuff behind you.
You're not going into that attic alone. I'm holding your hand, and I'm gonna go into the attic with you, and we're gonna shine light in the different corners of that space. But a friendship, it starts when one of the two persons says, what? You're going through the same thing? Me too.
It's really hard to really get to know someone. Like everybody's happy, everybody's hustling, everybody's doing their thing, but like I had a really tough time like really connecting with friends that I met here.
How are you? Like, how are you feeling lately? That's like, oh, okay, let me go ahead and open my attic and unpack some boxes with you.
Miami literally thrives on that, right? Everybody knows each other, but nobody knows each other.
When I was a little girl, going into the attic was so scary because I knew the place was gonna be dark, it's gonna be full of dust and like boxes and things that who knows, you know? For a process of change, the first step is always awareness.
Welcome everyone, my name is Karla.
And this is Vanessa.
And we welcome you to the Into the Attic podcast.
A space dedicated to explore the different corners of our emotional attics.
We made it.
Yes, we're
here.
Okay. I think, so this basically, Carlita, takes me back to our first time, our first conversation, how Into the Attic started, right?
I think so. I mean, this is, a project that we've been working on for honestly, like, I don't know, maybe a couple months now.
Yes, yes, actually.
Yeah, we've been speaking about it actually, let's go back. We've been speaking about it almost like for over 6 months now when we first started our Into the Attic gatherings, right?
It was on March 2023. If I'm not mistaken, yes.
It's been a little bit long.
Yes. And it's going to be our first Into the Attic, the two of us, because it actually, like the first one, without knowing that it was going to be the name of the gathering, it started with you and I having a deep conversation and a friend of ours. And I love it because it was the three of us for maybe an hour or 2 hours, almost 2 hours.
Literally.
Just talking about what was going on each one of us in our lives. And then we realized, wow, we're going through very similar things.
And it was so funny because, it's been a year of us going into these gatherings. And a lot of people have asked us, like, what is this about? Like, is it just another girl gang, right? Or girl kind of get together. And I think it really changed us and it has continued to impact our lives. I don't know about you, but it's definitely made a huge impact in mine. But, you're right. The way that we started really was a huge way of us just being able to get to know each other more. I mean, just to give a little background here, we're in Miami, right?
Yes, Miami. Miami.
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I mean, I feel like I definitely have really good relationships with friends here ever since I moved 10 years ago. But after, we connected 2 years ago and we started getting to know a lot of other people, it's really hard to really get to know someone. Like everybody's happy, everybody's hustling, everybody's doing their thing. But I had a really tough time, really connecting with friends that I met here, outside of the ones that I already obviously have known for years, right? And I think I was really thankful for the time that we actually went out, just walking around the park, trying to connect, right? And really, really speaking, what is going on with you, Vanessa? What's up with you? Tell me more.
You know that it's actually C.S. Lewis that he has a quote that says that a friendship, it starts when one of the two persons says, what? You're going through the same thing? Me too.
Yeah.
And that's just the journey of a friendship. And I think in that moment was like that. We were able to grow our friendship because it got deeper. Yeah. And like you were saying, Miami tends to be full of events. It's easy to find community, but to find a community where you can actually sit down, pause, and reflect with another person what's actually going on in your emotional lives. Because our emotional lives is what actually reflects, it's where we tend to box everything that we've been going through since a very young age till now. And I actually think the Into the Attic setting, I'm not talking about this space or the podcast, I'm saying the Into the Attic setting is basically two people sitting down, just going deeper, having conversations that in that moment matters, because it's what's actually happening inside of us.
Yeah, and I think that's really why, to kind of explain to everyone here, how did we get started, right? It was really just, 3 girls trying to connect more, like really getting deep about our lives, right? And really understanding like, hey, I might be going through stuff that you might be going through, but we're not talking about it because, we just tend to be either like, hardcore women or like, believing so much in faith, but, trying to make sure that, nobody knows about what's going on in our lives, and just being very superficial, right? And that really gave us the opportunity to really connect. And through that, we were able to luckily extend it to other people. So Into the Attic really started as a, girl gathering, in my house, at my couch, exactly like this, right? And just us talking and connecting, and girls can talk, so we can talk.
We talked for like almost 2 hours.
I know, 2 hours. Was like
after we started walking in the park, and then when we got it to like what's actually, because at first it was like not superficial conversation, but more about like what are we doing.
Yeah.
But I do think that when women ask like, how are you? Like, how are you feeling lately? That's like, oh, okay, let me go ahead and open my attic and unpack some boxes with you. And that's what happened.
Yeah, that's literally what happened. And then it just started growing, obviously, with so many other girls joining and just loving the space, that we were at, and just being vulnerable. It's crazy how I see that, sometimes we tend to hold things in, right? But at the moment that another woman starts being vulnerable, everybody starts sharing. Like, oh my gosh, I went through that too. And oh my gosh, I can't believe you're going through it. Like, I think we've had like several meetings where we've had, friends, people that we know that we didn't know what they were going through, maybe like a breakup or a heartache, right? And all of a sudden, 3 of them were going through the same thing.
Yes.
And it's to me like crazy how, just being vulnerable can open up the hearts of other people,
And I really wanna take this first episode to say, like, we're actually here because of you, Karla. And I'm gonna say this because I remember, let me share something very interesting. When Karla told me, hey, Vane, I would like to continue the conversations that we had, like the 3 of us, but I would like to make it like a gathering, like a space for other women to come and be vulnerable, because I have been serving I'm Christian, I've been serving in the church and the ministry for so long. My first thought was like, okay, what's gonna be the structure that we're gonna have? Mm-hmm. And then Carlita's answer was like, no structure. Let's just allow it to be a space where women can just come and show up knowing that they don't have to worry about anything, just to open up. And I think like back then, I was a little bit more like closed, even with my girlfriends. And to see that, when you replied that to me, I was like, it doesn't make sense, because I was constantly like always going to gatherings with a structure or with a purpose. I'm not saying that Into the Attic did not have a purpose.
Right.
I think we were able to discover it during the gatherings, but I just love the fact that, and these were your words, you said, I just want to create more like closeness with my relationships, with my friends. And I really think that this space is going to allow us to actually know where each one of us is and what are we going through. Yeah. And without you knowing, that was actually an invitation for you to even like tell me, hey, Vane, I wanna not just to have one meeting like this with you, but I wanna continue knowing what's actually going on in your journey. And I did not know how much it was gonna impact my life and even the life of the other women. But now we know, at least in our circle, we know what's actually going on each one of us, because it became something that every month we're gonna gather to check in as women and to know, like, how can I be for you too? Yeah. So really, Carlita, we're here because, you had this in your heart, this desire in your heart, right?
Yeah, no, it really is. And I'm thinking back right now, like, as we were speaking and, thinking about, should we do it? Should we not? I just really have always had a hard time having very like superficial relationships. Like, ask anybody that knows me for more than 10, 15 years, they'll tell you I'm very bad at chit-chatting, like, having small conversations, right? Like, take me deep. Like, let's go deep on conversations. And I love that, right? That's really how I feel I nurture deep, long-lasting relationships. And I feel like during that time, although we had known each other already for a year, maybe, right? Before that, I saw a lot of people from our community, or at least our closest friends that we hang out socially, right? Which is a lot of groups here in Miami. That's Miami literally thrives on that, right? Everybody knows each other, but nobody knows each other. Like nobody really knows what they're going through, right? So I was like, like I want more. Like if we're gonna really stay in community, we're gonna be hanging out. Like I don't want to just come to a party, a dinner, a get together, and just get to know you like very, very superficially. Like let's really have a relationship. This is gonna be long term, right? Yeah. So I'm really happy that happened, and I'm really happy that we actually got here, because I know we've been speaking about it for the longest time.
But I love it because as God was preparing, I do believe that He was preparing this moment for us. He was also preparing us internally. Like one of the things that we're gonna talk is gonna be sharing a little bit more about our addicts, but we're gonna get there. But
yes.
First, I would like for women to know what Into the Attic means and why the name. What the group is
How
now
it came
named
about.
Into the Attic.
Yeah, I mean, it really came about from one of the other girls sharing. I think they made a comment. We're like, yes. It.
Yes.
And it really came down to, how at least us women, and I don't want to just, filter down to women. I think this is really impacting even men, right? How sometimes we are so used to just avoiding, any emotional, parts of ourselves, of our history, right? Of our, in our souls, in our hearts, right? And we really try to avoid it. It could be like a trauma. It doesn't have to be too traumatic either, right? But we just tend to really put it behind and just keep moving on and really ignore it, right? Yes. And that could be through, heartaches, family trauma, anything, right? And I think this came out from us being able to literally go back and say, hey, maybe we do need to go into that attic, right? Into the dark places that we don't want to go sometimes, right? And it's better to do it in community.
Yes. Right? I remember because this girl from the group, she was sharing like, I don't know, it's like if we have an attic, we have like an attic inside of us. And I was like, yes, and that's exactly what we're doing. Like when I was a little girl, going into the attic was so scary because I knew the place was going to be dark, it was going to be full of dust and like boxes and things that who knows,
That we just store there. We just keep storing and putting away and like,
And I was like, it's like...
we want to face it.
Yes. Like things that we have forgotten, things that we said, hey, I'm gonna just put it in a box because at some point I'm going to go ahead and, revisit it, and we never do.
We never do.
But I think, and this is what like, the picture of Into the Attic, actually, the logo and everything, what we wanted to enclose in it was like, we want to help bring light to our own addicts, but also to the addicts of the women that, are our friends, that create this connection with us. Because we do believe, and we're both Christians, we do believe that that light, first, is the love of God.
Yes.
Second is the love of God when it comes to the ministry of presence, meaning you're not going into that attic alone. I'm holding your hand, and I'm gonna go into that attic with you, and we're gonna shine light in the different corners of that space.
Yes.
And I just love because that was actually for me. Like I was able to go through a difficult season, knowing that I did not have to go through that season alone.
Yeah.
That somebody was checking in to know, how is Vanessa doing? How is Vanessa feeling? When I was like, okay, it's been a while since I have even asked myself, how am I feeling?
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, most of the times when we're going through certain situations of our lives, what we tend to do is that we tend to distract ourselves, try to be more productive, more proactive in doing other things, but then we are forgetting like, okay, maybe I should stop and ask myself, how is Vanessa doing, right?
Yeah.
And to have someone to do it for you is actually like what actually gets you to look inside that attic and see, okay, let me sit down with you and let me talk.
Yeah.
Let me sit down with you and let me open up.
Yeah, and we can talk. I know we, as women, we can talk, but I really want to say this here in Miami, honestly. We're just, I don't know if it's a movement, and I myself can actually include myself in there, right? Where I love to thrive on, being boss ladies and, and women empowerment, and like we can achieve it all, right? And that's all commendable. But one of the reasons why I wanted to have the gathering and not have like so much of a structure and so much of, us having to do anything type related to even business, and things like that is because, dang, like, we're more than just like, structure and boxes, right? Like we definitely are like souls, right? And we're definitely our emotions, right? And I think as women still sometimes, especially being in a city like Miami, and especially being in an environment where, you almost wanna, a lot of women want to get to a level like men, we completely forget like, where is us, like as women, as feminine beings, right? Where can we actually like have a space to really speak up, right? Not just like, have an emotion and just like tackle it, just keep moving on, right? No, like, hey, what is it that you're feeling? Like, talk about it, process it, and then move on, right? Like,
you know what that reminds me? I remember, like, we were one of the other girls from Into the Attic. I remember that we were sitting with her. It was the three of us, and she said, not so long ago, probably when the idea of creating the podcast came, she asked, so what's your, if you do this podcast, what will be the purpose? Like, what would you like to say to women? And I remember that I said, I want them, for them to know that they are, and I want them to feel seen. And then you said, I want them to feel chosen. And in that moment, I kind of like understood what was the ministry that we were building through this, which is an opportunity for women to, it's not about connections, it's not about networking, it's not about anything, anything to do with any profession. It's about you coming as a woman and sitting down in a space where you're gonna feel empowered.
Yeah.
Because you know what empowerment is? Is to feel seen and to feel chosen.
Yeah.
When you make someone feel seen and chosen, you're telling them, hey, there's so much value in you, and that's why I want you to take a seat and be part of this circle. Yeah. And actually, Mother Teresa says that.
Really?
She says that, yeah. She has a quote. I will have to look for it, but it basically says that what makes a person actually feel poor is when they don't feel seen or chosen. And without us knowing, we were
doing that.
Yeah, we were doing that. We were giving other women, you know what? We were giving ourselves first the opportunity to feel seen and chosen, and the opportunity to feel that we belong. And I know that we started talking about Into the Attic, about how we got here to the podcast, but we also want to share a little bit of our background.
Yes.
And so the reason why, for me, this opportunity of being part of Into the Attic and to even grow a deeper friendship with you, Carlita, through it, has been because I came here at a very young age. So Vanessa is actually born in Ecuador. She moved to Miami at a young age of 18. I actually came here to do college, university. I started communications, actually. And but then as soon as I finished, I found myself just being great at sales. So then my whole career has been on sales. And I did also did some radio, so I was able to also keep that communications, knowledge in me. And I did some radio. I actually also, as a Christian, was part of a nonprofit organization for communicators in the U.S. that we will gather yearly in a very big event called Expo Lead. It was like the biggest Christian event in Spanish, but also like Christians and pastors and ministers will come and be part of like different workshops and like seminars. And I was able to actually do workshops at the age of 24 in how could pastors and ministries and like different organizations speak to the millennials. And I remember that I loved it. I felt that I was not only doing Christian radio, but I was also being able to speak to pastors, because I really had this desire inside of me for them to bring value to the people in my age, the millennials. So, and then at some point in my life, I saw myself making more money in sales than in communications. So what I did was I put communications in a box, and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna wrap it up for a little bit, and then I'm just gonna put it in a corner because right now I have to focus on this.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, Carlita, for me to be here, sitting down, being able to communicate, being able to like, just use this moment to like share to women, and also like, be able to speak about the light of the word of God, and just the light.
Yeah. I always knew since I met you, like, that you had this voice. It was just like a communicator, like Spanish, English, whatever you want to call it. Like, your voice is just so nice, and like, just the way that you speak, even like, at church, just to other people, it's just so nice. You're definitely a communicator. Since I met you, I think first week.
Thank you, Carlita. Thank you. And honestly, like, for me, to be able to be here, and now that you're saying that, like, I always knew it too. But to be honest, Miami, it is a city that has you, like, hustling, and you have to make it.
Yeah.
And my point with all of this was, like, I was able to, open that box of communicator. And this treasure that was there, that I love, that I do believe, when you read in the Bible about the la parábola de los talentos, by the way, sometimes you're gonna hear me.
You're gonna hear a lot of Spanglish here.
Spanglish, or like,
if you don't speak Spanish, you're gonna learn Spanish in this podcast.
A little bit. But la parábola de los talentos, the parable of the talents, right? Okay, so it speaks about the man that, there's a man that owns his land, and then he calls 3 of his servants, and then he says, hey, I give you 1 talent to you, I give you 5 talents to you, I give you 10 talents to you, and then go and do something with it, and when I come back, I want to see what you did with it.
Yeah.
And when he comes back, the one that was given 10 talents, he's like, hey, I multiply it, and this is how much we have now. The one that he gave it 5, he said, well, I made 1 transaction and I was able to double it, but here's what's for you. Yeah. And he was like, okay, you guys did great. When he asked for the one that he gave 1 talent, he's like, well, I didn't know if you were going to come back. I was not sure if I was going to be, like, I just didn't know when you were going to return. So I just hid it, but don't worry. Like, it's not like I stole it. Here it is. Here's for you. And he was disappointed.
Yeah.
And I feel like somehow I've been feeling disappointed of myself for even like having this talent that God gave me, and this something that for me is a treasure, and having hidden it for so long because I was just having the focus on what's going to make me feel more successful. And we're going to be able to continue showing more of our emotional addicts, but
definitely.
I'm just glad to be here. I'm just glad to be able to communicate, because it's a talent that I have, but at the same time, I'm glad to be here because another thing that I was able to uncover through these gatherings, and now the beginning of this podcast, is that because I came at the age of 18, I've been having 16 years of feeling lonely.
Wow.
And yeah,
and it's a reality. I mean, I hear a lot of people that come through Miami. They come. Bella, come here. Ven.
This is Bella. She's in every of our podcast episodes. So don't worry, Belita. Come, Belita, come.
Ven. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a real thing for people who come to Miami. A lot of people move here like transient, right? They're gonna give it a try, check how Miami is. I'm in real estate, so I work with a lot of clients that move, temporarily, they say, right? And it takes a couple of years for them to either get used to it. And usually, like, there's a pattern, like, that by the second year, they are like, oh, it's definitely not for me. I've been doing a lot of partying. There's not really like, there's not a way that you can, have a healthy life here, family, or, a close niche of friends, right? Close group of friends. So, you hear it all, but ultimately it comes down to, who you want to stay in community with, you know? And I mean, I've done it for sure when I first moved here, about 10 years ago, right? I moved, from Sarasota, which is where I grew up, right? Originally from Peru, by the way, but moved to Sarasota, moved to the States when I was 12. And I moved here 10 years ago. And first couple of years, it was like hanging out, getting to know the city, going out here, going out there, being in the world, right?
In the world.
So for sure, like, it was fun. And I had the same experience, right? Second year, I was like, maybe I should move back. This might not be for me, And then I had to really make a change because really I understood that the life that I wanted to make depending on my habits and how I, evolve my day, right? Outside of work, what do I do? Like, do I go party or do I go to the gym, right? Or do I go hang out with people or I'd rather just walk to the park, Really comes down to that. Obviously, it impacted my life so much in the last couple of years that I got way more involved with church. We'll talk more about that transition because I wasn't always a Christian, right? So, but it really changed my life because it brought me community, and that community is the one that now we're like all over the place hanging out. That's truly like family, right? On top of obviously like the friends long-term friends that I already have here, but. Yeah, I mean, it's real that, people here in Miami do tend to feel alone, even when a lot of them have high success.
Yes.
High success, it can really feel lonely, especially I want to say for, people from our generation, or even younger generations right now.
Yeah. You know that there's a term, so recently I studied nutrition and it's one of the things that like, I always feel like God speaks in different ways, and there's a term that is called hidden hunger.
Yeah.
And hidden hunger is basically when you are consuming the amount of calories per day that you should, whether you're looking to, gain muscle or like lose weight or just maintain. But hidden hunger happens when even though you are filling up your stomach, right? You're filling up yourself with the calories. You're filling up that tank. What you're consuming is not as nutritious as what your body needs. So what happens is that there's still a hunger inside of you. That's why it's called hidden, because basically it's like even though you consumed calories to have enough energy, your body has not been nourished properly because you are lacking what your body actually needs in this moment. For, let's say if an athlete is training, not because he needs, 200 calories per day in order to gain muscle or like to keep the muscle. If that person starts, consuming those calories but with like food that is not nutritious, even their performance is not going to be as good as it should be or could be if they will eat like nutritious food according to their needs.
Yeah.
And I'm sharing this because I was thinking, that tends to happen a lot in life. Yeah. What happens when we go through a breakup, or what happens when we go through a transitional time? Instead of us focusing, okay, what do I need right now?
Yeah.
In this specific moment, what will help me to be ágil, to be able to like continue moving?
Yeah.
What we do is that we tend to get ourselves busy. We start going out with more friends. We start, going out more into networking events. We start working more. We start working out more.
Another hustle, hustle.
Yeah, we put our mindset into like, I need to hustle.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that God made us women more emotional.
Yeah.
To make us able to be more aware when our emotional tank is empty, even though we're surrounded by a lot of people, even though we're being successful in our jobs, even though we have friends around us, if we are not taking care of our emotional attic, if we're not taking care of our emotional tank, one way or another, we end up just like crashing. And I love the fact that we have each other, Carlita.
Yeah.
When I feel, like, I remember not so long ago, I went through, like, it was something that was making me really sad in that moment. And in that moment, I thought, who can I call? And it's not because I didn't have people that I could call, but in that moment, you just feel lonely, and you feel like, how am I going to, face this? Or how am I going to go through these emotions, And then I'm happy that I was able to create this relationship with you because it allowed me to call you and be with you.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've learned in probably the last 2 years, it's how important community is in anything, like emotionally, at work, like especially when you're going through like low moments, right? Because I come from, we'll talk more about, all the details, but I come from being a woman that, very strong-minded. I can fix it all. I super independent. If something's going on in my life, like I have full accountability on myself. I can do this, right? Read the books or watch the podcast and all this stuff, right? And, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, but sometimes, yeah, you can do all that, right? And you can even, go to church and do it on your own. Done that, walked in, walked out, right? And it wasn't really until I built community that I realized, that it was really the moment that I started opening up more, and really basically releasing all of those items that I was like, I don't want people to know this, and I don't want people to know that, and I don't want people to, that it really feel like freedom. It liberated me so much, on what people thought or care or not care, right? And, some people tell me like, well, people don't need to know everything, right? True, it's true. There's some level of privacy there, but I feel like what you can't speak about and it's hidden remains shameful,
Yes.
and that eats you alive. It's definitely impacted my life, like throughout like years really. And I can see it obviously now more. I think Into the Attic really to me, like the gatherings really made it to me have freedom, and be able to just share things and not keep them hidden, because I'm like, this is not only just me. I'm not going through this alone. People are going through this. And, if somebody else can, listen to this and not feel alone with it, right? And not feel like they have to do it alone. Because I know as women, we can do it all. I know we can definitely do it all. And I know that we can, like, go through heartbreaks and go through issues and, and just keep tackling on things without probably even complaining, right? Because we have that stamina and that endurance, right? But the thing is that we don't have to.
It's funny. I saw the other day, it was a post, but obviously it was in a funny context. It was like, women be going through breakups and then getting a master's.
Yes.
And then,
it's true. And
like losing 20 pounds
Yes.
in just 1 week. And it's so funny because, like we have this energy inside of us that when we go through something, what we do is that we redirect it.
Yeah.
But it will be so important if we learn to redirect it first to us.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, seeing in that moment what are we actually needing, and reaching out to it. Like I remember, like what I was sharing when I was able to call you and be like, Carlita, help. I'm going through these emotions. I was also able to take this to therapy and be like, okay, clearly my attic needs more order. Clearly there are some things that, I need to find what I actually have not taken care of, that it's not allowing me to live in freedom. Because one of the things about coming here and doing live by myself, because my family, I have family here in the US, but I also have family in Ecuador. Mm-hmm. But I've been living here by myself for such a long time, is that it made me so, like you were saying, independent, that it was kind of hard for me to share things that I believe if I would have shared before, if I would have shed a light to them earlier, if I would have addressed them earlier, I would have been able to do some things different. Now we don't look like that to the past. We don't look like what could I have done different.
Right.
But from this point to forward, what we're actually aiming through this podcast, through these gatherings that we're having, is that we want women to like first redirect the energy to themselves.
Right.
And be like, let me go to this attic inside of me where I know there are things, past hurts that you were sharing too, like past traumas, or even treasures in there that because we have not addressed them, we are not in full awareness. Yeah. For a process of change, the first step is always awareness.
Yes.
When you are not aware of why are you finding yourself in the same pattern, reacting in the same way, or going back to the different, whether addictions or habits that do not help you, that happens because you haven't become aware of the things that you are still holding inside of you. Exactly. And that, listen, you don't have to address them by yourselves. Yeah. We are not therapists.
No, we're not.
But we're friends.
Yes.
And we believe in sisterhood.
Yes.
And we believe in sitting in that attic with you. Yeah. Even if our presence is all we can, we can minister, we can like share to you in that moment, we want to do it. Yeah. And then obviously I want to say, I'm grateful that, I was able to do therapy and address things that needed to be addressed, and I'm still in the journey, but I didn't have to do it alone. I was able to do it with you. I was able to do it with into the attic gathering. One Saturday of a month, I was happy sharing good news. And then the next Saturday, I was like, I am brokenhearted, you know, and I'm going to therapy now. And now and one of the funny things about therapy is that you start facing things that are whether uncomfortable or things that, you know, shake some things inside of you. And to know that I didn't have to go through that journey alone, but I repeat again that I had you and that I had been to the gathering so I could share was really and is really a blessing.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly the goal, right? To be able to share, you know, be open, you know, feel vulnerable, right? And know that there's somebody there to catch you, right? Yes. And speaking honestly, like the truth, you know, in a loving way, you know, like in love, right? Because I really think that there's so many, you know, obviously women are so good at like making friends with other women. Sometimes they're not like the most truthful relationships, right? But I feel like the better relationships are where you are able to tell somebody like, hey, like I'm seeing you from the outside, right? And something's wrong, you know, like you might want to, you know, let's go into this, right? Yeah. Either talk to me, talk to someone, you know, redirect, right? But you know, I think like true love for that person comes to really speaking truth into their life, right? Not you know, particularly solving the problem. I don't think that's, you know, our goal here, but definitely bringing light to it, you know, because whatever's hidden, it's not good. I've learned that, you know, from like years now, and obviously continue learning it every year. And definitely this podcast, you know, I think is going to help a lot of women. I also want to say, Bella, come here. I also want to say that I probably a lot of women are going to feel identified because a lot of the issues that we face, I mean, let's just put it into perspective. We are Latin women, right? Raised part of our lives in Latin America. We come from Latin American culture, right? And living here in the United States, right? On its own, it's already a very complex situation because
the cultural shock,
you know, the expectations from your parents, right? This whole thing of like not speaking about anything that is wrong in the family, right? If something went wrong, you're not saying anything.
Keep it hidden. Remember, it's like they have this expression like swipe it under the rug.
Yes, exactly. You know, there's this expression in Spanish, los platos rotos se arreglan en casa.
Los trapos sucios se sacan en casa, meaning like the dirty clothing, it's only to be seen at home.
Yes, exactly.
So basically, like whatever happens in your house, nobody can know.
Yeah, and that on its own, like, you know, makes a lot of, you know, I would say like people in this culture be very like into their own space, you know, like, we can have fun, we can go out, we can this, we can that, but nobody knows the bad stuff behind you, right?
It's the lack of practice of trust.
No, and so I'm sure some people will relate to that, you know, especially being here in Miami. Miami is such a melting pot of all types of, you know, ethnicities and backgrounds, you know, which is beautiful. I love it, right? But it makes it a very complicated, you know.
And then now try dating in Miami with all these different cultural situations happening.
For sure.
But we will talk about it too. But definitely, we just want to, you know, remind every woman we're not therapists, but we do have a desire of being there with you along the journey of what we're going to encounter in the emotional addicts of each other, but also in the emotional addicts of, you know, many others that will feel, you know, connected with this.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be bringing, you know, some professionals and guests. You know, that I'm super excited. I'm super excited because there's a lot of hot conversations, you know.
Important conversations.
Hot. Hot.
I like it. Like
honest. No, what is it called? Honest, open, and transparent conversations.
I love that.
Hot conversations. So
honest, open, and transparent. I love it. So Carlita, well, just to close the podcast, to close out, anything you would like to share?
No, just really excited about this, You know, we've been working on it. I think it's starting. So if this is really for you, if this impacts your life, if you definitely want to, if you relate yourself to it at all, you know, definitely continue watching us. We'll definitely be sharing a lot of good stuff that I can't wait to honestly like just sit here like we do at my house, you know, and just start talking some tea, some good tea, right?
I love it. And not only that, but I want to remind you with this. It's like you're not going to do this alone. So if you feel like, yeah, I don't know if I want to listen to these type of topics, maybe there is a reason why you're feeling like that. Maybe this means that this could be an opportunity to you to also embark into this journey of, again, you know, being able to take a look at the hidden corners of your emotional attic while you take a look at, you know, our hidden treasures and things in our attics. But friendship, sisterhood, and again, I just want to say thank you, Carlita, because this is really happening because you allow each other to be friends and to go to deeper conversations, to open up your space, to even bring more women along. And so again, welcome to the Into the Attic podcast, and we're so excited. We're gonna be sharing more into our social media. You'll be able to follow us. You'll be able to also know who we're going to be bringing into the next episodes. But also thank you to the Move Podcast Studio in Miami because we are here thanks to you guys. All of this, even the production and the, you know, telling us like, you should, you shouldn't. So thank you for all the guidance.
The direction and the production.
Everything. Truly.
We can't wait to have you in the next one. Continue watching us. Until next time.
Bye-bye.